seated. May we pray. O sacred Spirit, your presence creates a sanctuary of love and peace here and in our hearts. In the stillness of your holy presence today, we are renewed and restored. We are so grateful for this sanctuary of peace here and in our hearts. In this sacred time, we breathe deeply and relax in your holy presence. I move, I live, I have my very being in this peace. May my heart be a sanctuary of love and peace, a haven of peace for all with whom I come in contact. I surrender my concerns, my thoughts, my acts, my being, into your tender care, dear God. Rest now for a moment in the silence of prayer. Dear God, your loving Spirit flows through me today. It soothes any troubled feelings. With the assurance that my needs will be lovingly met, I let go and let God. I let the cares in your presence, O sacred Spirit, create a sanctuary of love, be transformed to hope and peace. And may I know the love that is behind them. I resurrect from the concerns of my life, from my negative thoughts, from my doubts. They fall away. With a peaceful, listening heart, I am open to your eternal wisdom. I am open to your guidance in all that I do. When I need to know the next step on the path before me, I rest for a moment in the sanctuary of your love in my inner cathedral. And I ask for your guidance. I am not anxious about which way to turn. I know that I will be gently guided. I quietly listen for your guidance. And more I remember to turn to you and ask for your guidance in every situation, all day. Rest for a moment in the silence of prayer. In the silence and stillness of your holy presence, dear God, I grow more and more aware of your healing love and peace within me. You heal my mind and my body. My heart pulses in perfect rhythm with the one power and one presence of this universe. I am radiant, joyful, peaceful and vitally alive, dear God. Your presence surges through every cell of my body temple, energizing every fiber and tissue of my being. I am aglow with the realization that I am filled with your presence. And I know that I am experiencing and expressing healing love as I grow stronger each and every day. I recognize you, dear God. I hear you, and I am open to your guidance. I see my world as a sanctuary of your abundance. I will no longer block this vision of the divine order of life. And I rest in the silence of prayer. With a new vision of the love, strength, beauty, and well-being that flow through me when I don't like it, I move through each day renewed and refreshed as I remember more and more to let go and let God. I look forward with enthusiasm to every day, the lessons to be learned, the people to appreciate, the beauty to be seen. Your light surrounds me, dear God. Your love enfolds me through every cell and every thought and mind. Your power protects me. Your presence watches over me every moment of the day and the night. Wherever I am, you are. And this is the truth. And I am so grateful. Amen. Will you please stand and sing hymn 95, Holy Spirit, Truth Divine, 95. this morning? Wonderful. So glad to hear that. This is the last Sunday of Lent before Palm Sunday, which of course precedes Easter Sunday. So I feel really passionate about our last chance, last opportunity that the Lenten season provides to talk about things we can still, it's never too late, still give up or renounce, let go of. All those things that get in the way of our living a peaceful, joyful, fulfilled, loving life. You know, people give up chocolate, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, meat, whatever. I gave up pickles one time when I was a little girl. Don't do that. One reason for giving them up, of course, is because every time we think about partaking of them and don't, it serves as a wake-up call, a reminder that we're on the spiritual path. It may be a sacrifice not to imbibe in those things for 40 days, but it's also a real gift to ourselves because it's an effective reminder of our goal in life, to be a more spiritual, better person, to cultivate our higher self, our God self. It's a reminder constantly. We need those things. The other reason for giving things up, of course, is to get a jump start maybe on renouncing some of the things that aren't good for us and that don't serve us on the spiritual path, like negativity. Great thing to give up for Lent. We started talking about that last week, and apparently a lot of us at Unity are having a problem struggling with various kinds of negativity, including me. So I thought it would be a good chance for us to revisit it and go a little deeper and to talk about some different aspects of various kinds of negativity that we can all just let go of and therefore live a much better life. That's the point. Lent leads up, of course, to the Easter story and the 40 days after Jesus' resurrection before his ascension. This happened partly because of all the dangers that surrounded Jesus the Christ. His disciples fell asleep when they were guarding him and they didn't protect him. Now, metaphysically, this represents the part of us that falls asleep and does not protect our inner Christ self. And negativity is a big one that does that. Don't we all sometimes forget to protect our inner Christ out there in the so-called real world? Well, that's what it was about. In the story, there was betrayal and unfair trial, conviction, and ultimately crucifixion. Just as in our lives when we fall asleep, all those things happen to our inner divinity when we're not on guard, awake, and protecting it all the time. Sometimes it's not till we get sick or have an accident or something or get depressed that we really start noticing the effects of that negativity in our lives. But we want to stay ahead of those things so they don't happen. That's the point. What we don't want is to succumb to outer events, our outer life, so to speak, which come in very often and trigger those negative reactions. In other words, we don't want to let our ego be in charge. Egos love drama and they love negativity. We all have an inner pull, it's just human nature, to succumb to that herd mentality out there, which you hear me say all the time, mass psychosis. The French talk about that all the time, which is negative thinking. That's the herd mentality over there. Metaphysically, the Romans and the Jews who crucified Jesus represent those negative outer influences in our lives that crucify our inner divinity. If we don't stay aware of them, when life or other people aren't exactly what we really want them to be, we get negative. If we're going on automatic, that's just part of being human. which is a form of sleep. That's why the Bible says so many times, awaken, wake up. Our lower self, our authentic self, is always there, ready to take over our lives. But something happens out there sometimes, and our programming, our ever-present egos go into operation, and if we aren't awake, we're just like toy soldiers. They're made in a factory, so you wind them up a certain way, and they take off and walk a certain way. And that's the way our humanity often is. And we end up stimulus response, something happens out there doing exactly what we want. Our response is negativity, and we take off on it. So we must stay vigilant and very present all the time to what we are thinking, what we are doing. Watch yourself. Watch your human machine, or it will revert to automatic. If we don't make a commitment to be something more than a machine, that's what we end up being, just going automatic. But we want to be above that. Now, another relevant aspect to the Lenten Easter story is that Jesus didn't respond to all these outer events as other people did. I wouldn't respond to being crucified in that way. He even forgave his executioners, the clamoring crowd, as it says in the Bible, who had screamed, crucify him so much that finally Pontius Pilate and the Jews did. But Jesus was able to say, ultimately, forgive them, for they know not what they did. He knew they were being wound up in a certain way, programmed like those toy soldiers in the factory, and they were just doing what they were programmed to do. And he understood that. He ultimately did not succumb to negative influences. Yes, he had an immediate response. He was human, like we all do. At one time he said, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? We all feel like that when bad things happen, of course. When bad things happen to good people. Books galore written on that subject. But Jesus woke up ultimately. He got a hold of himself, and he did not go on automatic. And that's why he resurrected in the story, and that's why he ascended. We all have that opportunity, despite our initial human reactions, to get a hold of ourselves and to see things differently, to forgive, and to start over, but on a higher plane as a different kind of person, our higher self. As the Easter story shows us. That's what the Easter story metaphysically is all about. It's your story. It's my story. We too can resurrect to a higher, happier, healthier state of consciousness. It's within our reach. As we say all the time, Jesus said, these things that I do, ye shall do also, and greater. The story clearly tells us that every crisis, even ones as seemingly bad as Jesus' crucifixion, can be a new opportunity for our rebirth, our renaissance. Usually it is just a matter of seeing the whole situation differently, which is what I would imagine happened after Jesus thought about it, got a hold of his human self. Why hast thou forsaken me? And realized, they're doing the best they can. And if things seem really dark, ask God for help. Ask God to help you see them differently. That's all you have to do. You don't have to do it all on your own. Every last straw problem can be the first step to something different, to a new you. We have lots of rebirths, lots of resurrections, a lot of ascensions in life. That's the meaning of the Easter story. Crucifixion, resurrection, and finally ascension to a higher place. That higher place being the God principle. And the next time something happens, and it always does, we'll get it together a little faster. And then the time after that, faster still. Until finally, we can just watch ourselves and our reaction and relax and understand. When we transmute our negativity and see situations differently, we quit being at a in life. It's no fun to be in effect. We want to be at cause. We start then being at cause. We start being masters of our own ship. We take the reins from our ego and we take back our power, is what we do. We often then start seeing these seeming crises as more opportunities to grow. Think about that. We are no longer dependent on our circumstances for our happiness. How wonderful is that? We are no longer slaves. That's what slavery means, dependence on our circumstances or people. We're then free. Now, it's no accident that the Ascension story uses the number 40 for the number of days that passed between Jesus' resurrection and his ascension. According to the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary of Unity, Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, wrote, 40 represents completion. When things first happen and we react, we have some time for completion of looking at it differently and reacting differently. The number 40 is used 146 times in the Bible, this number of completion. For example, Moses lived 40 years in Egypt before he gained his freedom. He lived 40 years in the desert before his people went to the promised land. He was on Mount Sinai for 40 days and nights, on two separate occasions actually, in Exodus 24:18 exactly. Elijah went 40 days without food and water. Jesus was tempted by the devil many times during these 40 days and nights that he fasted to complete his preparation for his ministry that began. So, yes, it takes us sometimes some time. That's why we come here and learn and study, because then we can put it to use. Rain fell on Noah's ark for 40 days and 40 nights while he prepared to start a new life. 40 represents the time that it takes us. We need not be discouraged if we have these situations to deal with. It represents the time that it takes us after the storms of life come to prepare ourselves to see them as opportunities. But we must never lose faith. Moses, Noah, Elijah, and Jesus did, and the lesson is that we shouldn't lose faith either. Yes, sometimes we fail, and the very next time we get a little better. But after the 40 years symbolic number has passed, we gain control over this part of our life. It takes time for the lessons to be really learned, but with a little effort and practice on our part, they are. And eventually, we too can resurrect from all of our old beliefs about being dependent on outer circumstances for our happiness. Don't we all feel that way? Things happen and we react and we get mad at the situation. That's just letting life control us. But the Easter story tells us that we can resurrect from anything, even a crucifixion, and ascend to a place where we can see eventually that all is in divine order, no matter what our initial knee-jerk automatic response might have been. The 40 days, the number of completion, could take 40 years, could take 10 minutes. It's that time that it takes us to overcome an initial reaction to negativity and to see that all is in divine order, as I know you Course of Miracles students are well aware of. We often go through the same doubts, negativity, and resentment that the chosen ones did after they left Egypt, which is Egypt is a symbol of material, lower level life, metaphysically. And before those people entered the promised land, there were times when they really wanted to return to Egypt, to their old way of thinking, their own consciousness, so to speak, and forego going to the promised land. We too often prefer to just go back to our old familiar state of consciousness because we're used to it, we know how to react, it's no effort, and we forget what it really is doing to us. So, how do we resurrect and sin from the so-called bad situations and use them for personal development instead of just succumbing to our negative reactions that they can trigger? We all have them. How do we keep from succumbing to that negativity and bad situations like in the story, the crucifixion that Jesus the Christ encountered? And what are some of these negative parts of us that would be advantageous to give up? Let me give you some examples from the Lenten Unity's booklet entitled 40 Days of Letting Go. How many of you all have read that? Some parts of that. 40 Days of Letting Go. Okay, great. Well, I'll be repeating a few of them. I mentioned a few last week just to make the point. Things like negativity, like fear, self-doubt, anger, unforgiveness. But the Unity Lenten booklet gives us a true litany of examples of all kinds of negative thinking that are holding us back. And talks about how it's just a complete waste of time, is what it is. It obscures our Christ vision, for another thing, and it causes us a lot of mental and physical suffering. So why wouldn't we want to get rid of it? There's anxiety, criticism, resentment, resistance, self-pity, pessimism, shame, outdated beliefs, the past, feeling totally overwhelmed, sorrow, stress, worry, struggle, all those things. If the shoe fits, throw it out. Give it to good will. Let's look at a few of these and why you would want to nail it to your cross. Don't really get it. Along with everything that's been holding you back from enjoying every minute of your life. Isn't that what we all want? Life is to be enjoyed. That's our birthright. This is not all of these things. They're not supposed to be sacrifices. They're to free us and help us live wonderful, miraculous lives. One negative problem, of course, is anger. I put that first because I think we all deal with that. Psychologists tell us that anger usually comes from some fear that hasn't been fully accepted and worked on, some emotional wound that hasn't healed. Another thing to consider is that when we were babies, we screamed a lot and had temper tantrums, and it worked, didn't it? Most of us got what we wanted. So anger registered early is valuable too. But we are adults now, and considering human nature, the opposite is usually true. Have a temper tantrum with your boss, you'll probably not have a job the next Monday. It's just smart for us to look at our anger and find, if possible, what it is that triggers it, and then let go of these old ideas. Often we get mad when things just don't go our way, just like when we were babies. But in the real world, it is what it is out there, and it's best not to resist it. It's just smart and mature. Maybe we get mad at the driver who doesn't let us in out there, but if we're really honest with ourselves, maybe we just got up too late to deal with the normal morning traffic. I know this because I used to get mad at the train on Metairie Road every day. Imagine wasting my time being mad at the train. It always held me up 10 minutes in the morning. I hated that train. I got to school mad every day. The fact is that when I started getting up 10 minutes earlier, I really caught that train. All my suffering had been useless. I was just projecting my negativity, probably at myself, out on the outside world. A train, no less. It pays to notice when we're angry and to look deeper at the real reason and to start releasing it, but without self-blame. We're all humans. It's just helping ourselves be happy freer, more peaceful people. Another one, anxiety. Unity minister Reverend Engelhardt says, anxiety is like paying interest on a debt we haven't incurred. Isn't it interesting? The fact is that fear is at the core of all anxiety. It was suggested that we merely think of how often in our lives we are anxious, and that actually anxiety has lied to us. In fact, we should start keeping track of how many times the situations we were anxious about never materialized. They say it approaches 100%. Isn't that interesting? Anxiety is like a false prophet. Good tool for anxiety: envision the best case scenario you can think of. Bitterness is another one. We're bitter about a perceived wrong, for example. That bitterness can overtake us and just corrode our souls. A good tool for releasing bitterness is shifting our awareness or hurt to something else, something like forgiveness. Beneath our bitterness or hurt, there is always love in us, which becomes then available to us when we forgive, when we're willing to let that bitterness towards somebody else go. And remember that forgiveness doesn't mean condoning what happened. It simply means letting go of the heaviness in your heart. Then you can probably deal with the situation a whole lot better anyway. It is another way of freeing ourselves from inner slavery. Blame. Here's another one. Blaming ourselves, blaming others. It's important to know that everything that's happened to you in your whole life has made you what you are. And you are a beautiful, unique individual. There's nobody on planet Earth that is like you. So work toward not labeling anything that has happened as good or bad, just useful to help you grow. By releasing blame, you free yourself to enjoy people and experiences. Letting go of blame creates a lot of peace in your life. We all know people who are stuck in the blaming a parent, ex-spouse, friend, boss, so much so that they just can't go forward in their lives. It's hard to realize, but it's comforting to know that we're all doing the best we can all the time. We are, and they are. Even when somebody's best bothers us, we'll be much happier, without the negativity of blame in our hearts. Then there's complaining. I'm an expert on that, so listen carefully. Do you know people who are constantly complaining during break time at the water fountain, the workroom, or the faculty lounge? Anybody know people like that? Not us, of course. Just as you know other people. The crowd that complains about everything all the time. How is that working for them? Good question to ask. Does it get anything changed? Rarely. Psychologists tell us that complaining is usually due to one of two things. People are just negative and looking for someone or something outside of themselves to blame, like a train. Or two, they complain because, honestly, that's the only way they know to connect with other people. They really don't have much else to talk about. But complaining is a waste of our time and energy. Rarely does anything come of it, and it is exhausting. Also, if nothing comes of it, why not change what we can change, which is our thinking, the way we see situations. The best tool for eliminating complaining thoughts: the moment you hear yourself complaining, start noting what you're grateful for. For me, I lately noticed a lot of complaining about things that need to be fixed around my house. No one is ever available to do it after 4 or on Saturdays when I get home. I've recently started applying the grateful tool, though, and it works. Instead of complaining about all the things that don't work around my house, I started being really grateful for my house. And I remember that I love my house, drippy faucet and all. What a change in my thinking dynamic that was. Now, I applied the same tool to the racket that my 2 Doberman pinchers produce, barking their way through the day, the night, while I'm sleeping. Wednesday night Zoom class for Unity, as you all know, barking and barking. Now, I started being grateful when I really thought about this. It helped, because I would look at those sweet dogs. I know a lot of people don't even know black Doberman look sweet, but to me, they are the sweetest, most wonderful things in the world, and I am so grateful for them. And I realize I don't care if they bark 24 hours a day. I want them to be there. It completely changed my mindset. As long as they're around and healthy and happy, I'm happy to hear them now. And I can always put you all on mute for Wednesday night, which I do a lot now. And I could go on and on and on. The negativity for humans is limitless. Competitiveness, perfectionism, pessimism, self-pity, etc., etc. You're the best judge, of course, of what you need to let go of. We all have myriad negativities that we maintain, often without really thinking about them. Herd mentality out there would have us believe that negativity is completely normal. But herd mentality is not what we are aiming for. Not releasing some of this old negativity often leads to drinking and drug problems, depression, and a litany of physical and emotional illnesses that we don't deserve. Society as a whole doesn't have many coping skills for negativity, but Jesus the Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Dalai Lama, Gandhi, and countless other sages have passed on the eternal wisdom about the importance of letting go of our negativity and consequently letting go of suffering. The suffering it causes. It all comes down to accessing our Garden of Eden, our promised land, our freedom. The alternative is to hang on to old childish ways and old tapes. Seems so comfortable and familiar. And so, as it says in Corinthians 13:7, when I was a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. I looked through the glass darkly, but now I see face to face. I put away these childish things. A large part of these childish things is our negativity, which prevents us from manifesting our heaven on earth. The medical field tells us that negativity causes many physical and mental illnesses. We know that negativity is a waste of our time, but we need to go beyond just knowing that. We all know it. The teachers at my school just completed a year-long study of the latest brain research as it applies to education. All you teachers have been through similar things. But something really struck me this year as is particularly applicable in this situation. It divided learning into 4 levels. First, there's knowing, then there's understanding, then there's using, and then there's mastery. Knowing, understanding, using, and mastery. Now, in terms of giving up negativity for Lent, I think we all know that it's smart and necessary. Most of us really here at Unity understand this. But if we are to progress as humans, we need to use the knowledge. When we change our negative thinking, we start seeing results, and then we begin to truly master the concept. We begin to master life. We start being masters of our life. And one day we will notice that insecurity, doubt, judgment, competitiveness, limitation, sorrow, self-pity, shame, anger, and all of the rest of it are just not there anymore. And in its place, we'll see peace, joy, and love. And if negativity does rear its ugly head, we quickly spot it and turn off that negative projector in our mind, knowing that the movie is not real, it's not us, it never was. The movie was just our negative thoughts, programmed in for years since our childhood by the outside world. Maybe we can even start noticing what triggers the negativity and go, so there go those bad childhood memories going again. There's that childish anger again. I'm letting somebody else ruin my day. I'm letting something out there rule my life. And then we learn to just start letting it go quicker and quicker each time. This is about letting our inner divinity live our lives. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. This is learning to see with our Christ vision. That's what it's all about, to see everything differently, with different eyes, with your Christ vision, which will free us from our inner negativity, our inner slavery, so that we too can resurrect and ascend, just as Jesus did. That's why the story is our story. We can all resurrect to our higher self. So think of these last days of Lent as your final preparation for your Easter resurrection and ascension to the God principle, your higher self. Crucify your negative thoughts on your cross. That's when life gets really, really good. In closing, I urge you to let the rest of this Lenten season serve as an impetus to start noticing all that ego, negative drama in your life. Just stay away. Start noticing all the negative thoughts and start freeing yourself of all of them one at a time. You have 2 more weeks to nail them to your cross and let them die so that you too can resurrect and ascend to a higher level of consciousness. Your heaven on earth, a happy, fulfilled, and peaceful life. And you all deserve nothing less. May we bless our offering. Divine love flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Divine love flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Divine love flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. In the name of the Father, and the name of the Son, and the name of the Holy Spirit, it is so now. have one announcement, and it's about the Healing and Wholeness class that our intern Stephen Fleming is going to be teaching 3 different Saturdays. You all chose the one that you wanted out of the 11 SAE classes, the ones that you have to take. You have to go into before you can enter ministerial school. And it's on healing and wholeness is what you all selected. So don't forget to write on your calendars April 1st, 9:30 in the family room. 9:30, that's this Saturday, 9:30 to 2:30, I believe it is. Anyway, Stephen is very, yes, Jeanette. You have an announcement? Come on up here.
To the tea that we had before I got, and I'd like, if you're thinking about being here next Sunday, to stay for the tea that we're having.
That's what that for me. Thank you, Jeanette. Boy, it takes a village, John. It's already April 2nd. Yes, okay. We didn't used to announce that because, well, for a lot of reasons. But yes, a tea. It's wonderful. We all are back there in the family room. We sit together at tables and have this lovely tea with china and silver that Jeanette does for us, and beautiful little tea sandwiches. So next Saturday is the Healing and Wholeness class starting at 9:30, and Sunday after the service is the tea. So thank you, Jeanette. Okay, would you please rise for our closing? The light of God surrounds you, the love of God holds you, the power of God protects you, the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is, and you are safe and secure. The Lord watches between me and thee while we are absent one from the other, and helps us to know that we are all one in spirit through our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. I invite you to come down and get in a circle for our peace song, and just get that circle as big as you can.